The enemy forces believe that contained within this building is the heart and inspiration of our movement. They're right. We're winning, boys. Courage. But in our moment of victory, let us not forget the brave women who supported us. Never was there a grander cause for men and women. And never was that cause more grandly served.
I'll just type this up for you, Mr. Connolly.
During Easter week in the GPO, it was James Connolly who commanded the rebel forces. Connolly was a man who knew what it was like to be in a fight. He had spent his whole life fighting against poverty, against injustice, and against oppression. He was a soldier and a writer. He was a socialist and a father. And in the end, he was a revolutionary who died for freedom.
A good novel. A good rest. An insurrection. As certainly as Revolution Deluxe.
As long as I live, I will have no rest, only working, educating, organising and fighting to destroy the forces that produce poverty. These are the words of James Connolly, a man who was no stranger to poverty himself. Connolly was born in an Irish slum in Edinburgh in the year 1868. His parents had emigrated to Scotland from Monaghan and settled in Cowgate, an Irish ghetto where thousands of poor Irish families flocked in the hope of finding work.
He was actually born within St. Patrick's Parish, which was known as Little Ireland. It was very much an Irish ghetto within Edinburgh. His family came from the lowest ranks of rural Ireland. Both his grandparents were rural labourers. He himself, he had an education up to the age of about 10 in the local Catholic primary school. He then left and worked mostly in labouring type jobs. Ultimately, because of the economic difficulties he was having, like his brother before him, his elder brother John, he joined the British Army.
Yen sé le stáil san áran nuair a bhí sé timpeall ceithre bliana déag d'aois, thug sé anam bréige agus duine sé bréige faoine ís chomá. Agus níl an irid san ólis fada going faoine héal san áram, mar bhíoch leiscéir ina dhéis an leabhartfuoi. Ach tá blúirí chólis a going má go leor ina héamh, mar hampla tás going go raibh sé in éireann mar haidiúr de chuid ar na Breatanas na hochtadaí, agus bin tréise anna chorathe faoin dua in éireann. Agus ina dhéag sin chuirigh sé saoim agus dhéanamh sé tagart don agóid ar san na talún.
Dearn go raibh tunachar aige sin ar aigna, mar léaró sé go beo cén sort égóra a bhí ar siúil, agus go raibh aran na Breataine an leis an égóir sin a chosint agus a chuimhnú. Agus a bheith híal ar fad na dhé sin bhí grán aige ar aran na Breataine. Agus mar sin nuair a chola sé go raibh reisimints le neistú go dtí an ins, chréig sé an tarm.
Connolly had another reason for not wanting to go to India with his regiment. A young lady by the name of Lily Reynolds. Lily moved to Scotland with James after he left the army, and they married in April 1890. They settled in Edinburgh, where Connolly began to get involved in the socialist movement. But with a young family to support, he needed some way to provide for them.
Socialists support one another. Connolly repairs the worn-out understandings of the brethren at standard rates. Ladies' boots, 1 shilling and sixpence. Gents, 2 and 6.
He did establish a cobbler's shop for a while in 1895, but that failed after a few months. He was an absolutely hopeless cobbler. He simply couldn't mend shoes well. Also, he was so engrossed with the socialist movement at that time, he really prioritised that over his own work and his own livelihood, to the detriment probably of his family life.
2 months after the birth of his third daughter, word came to Connolly that the Dublin Socialist Club was looking for a full-time secretary, a job that offered a salary of £1 a week. Connolly and his family moved to Dublin, and he set about winning converts to the socialist cause.
But in any march towards nationhood, fundamental questions have to be asked. And the first question that must be answered is, who are the Irish people? Is it the dividend-hunting capitalist, with the phraseology of patriotism on his lips, and the spoils wrung from sweated Irish toilers in his pockets? Is it the scheming lawyer, or the slum landlord, or any of these sections which today dominate Irish politics? Or is it rather the Irish working class? The Irish working class must emancipate itself, and in emancipating itself, must free its country.
During the summer of 1896, Connolly founded the Irish Socialist Republican Party, but the organisation struggled with very few members and very little support. As one newspaper reported, the Irish Socialist Republican Party has more syllables than it has members. It was a rare occasion that the party could afford to pay Connolly, and he struggled to support his family. Finally, he decided he would emigrate to America, and in the autumn of 1903, he sailed to New York in the hope of building a better life for his wife and children.
Bhí a chláán le tíocht amach go America na dhia, agus bhí dáta socraí agus chóise go dtí Ellis Island le níad a bhailú, ach níor tháinig siad ón mád, agus bhí an imní ar nó chóise ríist an lád ar géin agus ríist níor tháinig siad ón mád, agus fearseachtain a bhí an scéal céanán. Ar deire tháinig sé a chláán i tíocht ach níor an inín behinne leis móna níor a siise láthair, agus sinna nóir a fór sé amach go raibh timpis éis tarlú. An lá ar a chláán le blad lí ágáil, haring móna potte an tinne, agus dó bhí go donna sa timpis sin, war sí fe cúpla dáchan sin bhása sí.
My chief motive in coming here was to provide a better field for my girls than was open for them at home. But the girl for whose immediate benefit the change was made was stricken down, and the blow darkened my life and changed all our hopes and prospects.
James Connolly spent the next 7 years in America working with socialist organisations. But it was the time he spent working in the trade union movement and with the industrial workers of the world that had the greatest impact on his political outlook.
Bhí ceart cumann nua chuirthar ar bun an industrial workers of the world a bhalig gnáibrithe le céile, ní craft union de bhí ann ach ceart cumann dus na gnáibrithe agus ghlach Connolly páirt mór san IWW go mór in Newark agus Newark, New Jersey agus go mór bhí sig agrú ibrithe dogannaí isteach ibrithe as nach ibrithe as an idáil freisin. Agus chun leabhart lob, chun leabhart leis na himmercaigh sin, dalam sé a dáilis agus leabhar sé go líofa as a dáilis leis na hibrithe sin.
Keep
someone's got to speak to them.
Where the hell is Comrade DeLuca? They'll rip this place apart if we don't get here soon.
I'll never let it be said. I didn't give my all for the cause.
Ed ora, camerati, Giuseppe, Connolly!
Grazie. Camerati, ogni fabbrica organizzata sotto l'egida della Industrial Workers of the World è una fortezza strappato della controllo della classe capitalista. Dobbiamo unire contro il capitalismo. Avanti alla Repubblica Socialista!
Although Connolly was organising workers of all nationalities, Ireland was never far from his thoughts. In 1907, he helped organise the Irish Socialist Federation in New York to help support Irish workers.
It would be difficult to understate the importance of the Irish Socialist Federation in terms of Connolly's re-engagement with Ireland. It brought him into regular contact with socialists back in Dublin, and with the emergence in 1909 of a reinvigorated Socialist Party of Ireland, Connolly realised that there could now be opportunities to return to Ireland and become perhaps a full-time organiser for either the Labour movement or the Socialist movement.
I have set my heart on getting back to Ireland. I feel that most anyone can do the work I'm doing here, but that there is work to be done in Ireland, that I can do better than most anyone. I'm always dreaming of Ireland, dreaming of going back to the fight at home. Now, you know I have a way of trying to realise my dreams. I think I'll try and realise this one.
On the evening of the 14th of July 1910, a farewell dinner was held in Kavanagh's restaurant in New York for James Connolly. Connolly was returning to Ireland and to the fight for Irish freedom.
Connolly arrived back to Ireland in 1910 and he returned to a very changed situation. The emergence of the Irish Transport and General Workers Union at that time was a massively significant event. The ITGWU meant that unskilled workers were being mobilised and unionised for the first time in large numbers in Dublin. Probably the most important figure at the head of that movement was Jim Larkin.
Jim Larkin was born to Irish parents in Liverpool in 1876, and like Connolly, he had been sent out to work when he was still a child. Like Connolly, Larkin had spent his life campaigning on behalf of the labouring classes, and on Connolly's return to Ireland, they joined forces on behalf of Dublin's workers, who were in a more desperate plight than ever.
Connolly was somebody who had direct experience of poverty. He was born into dire poverty in Scotland, into tenement life. He would have been very aware then, when he came back to Ireland and settled in Ireland, of the extent to which things simply had not changed. If you look at Dublin in the years in the run-up to the Rising, you can see the extent of poverty. There were 26,000 people who were living in tenements. 20,000 of those 26,000 were living in one-roomed tenements. If you go to individual streets under the 1911 census, you can see the degree of overcrowding that existed. To take Henrietta Street, for example, on the north side of the city, what had once been a relatively salubrious area, there are 15 houses in Henrietta Street with 835 people living in those 15 houses. James Connolly would have been very aware of that, and James Connolly was somebody who would have said that Ireland, or the concept of Ireland, doesn't mean anything to me if it doesn't recognise the individuals that make up Ireland and what they are enduring. And the lack of rights that workers had as well, as became so patently obvious during the 1913 lockout.
The ITGWU was seen as a serious development by many employers in Dublin. William Martin Murphy in particular was appalled by the emergence of this union, and he considered Larkin to be a dangerous firebrand. Martin Murphy was adamant that the ITGWU had to be faced down, and in August 1913 he laid off 100 of his employees who he believed to be members of the union. He also asked his Romanian employees to sign a pledge to say that they wouldn't join the ITGWU. Consequently, strike action was initiated, and the consequence of it was the Dublin lockout of 1913. A lockout that involved 20,000 workers within the city, probably 80,000 people in total if you include their dependents. It was a massive industrial dispute that led to much street violence and led also to the jailing of both Larkin and Connolly for a brief period as a result of speeches they made in favour of the locked out workers.
Baton charges, prison cells, untimely death and acute starvation. All were faced without a murmur, and in the face of them all, the brave Dublin workers never lost faith in their ultimate triumph. Never doubted but that their organisation would emerge victorious from the struggle. Ah, comrades, it is good to have lived in Dublin in these days.
Connolly was arrested on the 30th of August and sentenced to 3 months in prison. He went on hunger strike and starved himself for a week until the authorities relented and he was released. As Larkin was still in jail, Connolly was the man in charge at Liberty Hall, and he set about organising a workers' defence force.
A real socialist movement can only be born of struggle, of uncompromising affirmation of the faith within us. The Dublin fight is more than a trade union fight. It is a great class struggle, and recognised as such by all sides. Now, listen to me. I'm going to talk sedition. The next time we're out on a march, I want to be accompanied by 4 battalions of trained men. I say nothing about arms at present. But when we want them, we know where we can find them.
The Irish Citizen Army was one of the flints that would spark off the 1916 Rising, but the strikers were not the only ones arming themselves. In the north, the Ulster Volunteer Force was formed by Unionists to oppose Home Rule, and in the winter of 1913, Nationalists set about organising their own military force, the Irish Volunteers. The Dublin lockout lasted over 6 months, but in early 1914, workers who were starving and desperate began to drift back to work, and the strike was broken.
Dublin is isolated, and so we Irish workers must again go down into hell. Bow our backs to the lash of the slave driver, let our hearts be seared by the iron of his hatred, and instead of the sacrificial wafer of brotherhood and common sacrifice, eat the dust of defeat and betrayal.
Nuair a bhreathas tú ar na rudaí a tharla níos ceardaigh, bhí 3 bhuille tromchóiseach búlta ar go níolach. Ifre héin hepar an stalcim lá clia, ifre dó fógur rialtas na Breataine, gníon bhí críochail ar an tír. Seachas Parliament neamhsplách a bheith ag éireann mar a bhí gealta, fuair sé meach gur hen tír le geara na gá leah, agus go mbeadh stát aontachtach bunaí ó thua, agus bóas an rud é seo dar leis, agus sin ifre 3 tháinig an cog mór, agus hitsa a glúisiad hóisiach as a chéile.
One of the things that brought James Connolly on board, I think, was the outbreak of the First World War. And James Connolly's notion that this was British imperialism at its worst during this First World War, particularly in terms of the people who were going to pay the ultimate price, or pay a disproportionate price, as he would have seen it. Those working class people who were enlisting and who were enrolling in this army and who were going to become effectively pawns and were going to be slaughtered on that basis. And what he effectively does is to declare war on war.
Should the working class of Europe, rather than slaughter each other for the benefit of kings and financiers, proceed tomorrow to erect barricades all over Europe, we should be perfectly justified in following such a glorious example and contribute our aid to the disbandment of the vulture class, the proud and rule of all.
War is upon us, and we are helpless. What then becomes of our resolutions, all our threats of general strikes, all our carefully built internationalism, all our hopes for the future? Were they all as sound and fury, signifying nothing? Would it not be better for all capable of bearing arms to resolve to fight and, if need be, to die for freedom here at home?
Connolly's position in the past would have been one that favoured mass insurrection with the working class at the forefront of the revolution. With the outbreak of the war and the collapse of the socialist movement across Europe, Connolly started to look towards a small-scale insurrection. As a consequence, Connolly became involved in building up the Irish Citizen Army into a fighting force with the intention of involving it in an insurrection against British rule in Ireland.
But Connolly wasn't the only one planning an insurrection. The IRB, a secret society pledged to overthrow British rule in Ireland, had formed a military council at the outbreak of the war to investigate the possibility of staging a nationwide rebellion. The military council consisted of Eamon Cant, Joseph Plunkett and Patrick Pearse, but it was being directed by Sean McDermott and Tom Clark, who had been stealthily moving nationalists towards insurrection for years. Connolly and his citizen army were now threatening to preempt their plans.
He's pushed us so far. We need to think that we need to make him believe so. Or if you send out a message.
The great danger was, of course, that Connolly might act and drag in the rank and file of the volunteers, and indeed, that actually was Connolly's plan. Set the ball rolling and let everyone else come in. That would upset the meticulous planning and timing that Clark and McDermott were engaged in. And Connolly is apparently, at the end of 1915 and early 1916, determined to act.
The war in Europe has brought about a crisis which may contain, as yet hidden within it, the moment that generations have been waiting for. Remember, England's difficulty is Ireland's opportunity.
Bhí Connolly ag gira rudi cinnta dhéanamh ach bachas chomh féin nach raibh rám eile in áiríre go leor na poblachtóirí seo bhí siad a caint ach ní raibh siad ag gira dhéanamh. Agus bhíodh sé rá go minic go hoscailte go mbeadh an tarm cathair sásta troid as the péin fiú mar amach aon eile sásta leis cé nach raibh ach beidir gá chéad ball ag an arm.
Mr. Connolly. Mr. Pearse. England's difficulty is Ireland's opportunity. Isn't it about time you got yourselves a new slogan?
I'll bear that in mind when I'm writing my next speech.
James, there's a commemoration in Bodenstown in a month's time for Wolftone. Will you be in attendance?
When are you fellows going to stop blathering on about dead Fenians and talk about live ones instead?
By the winter of 1915, James Connolly's mind was set on revolution. He was determined to lead the citizen army out and to strike a blow against the British Empire, a move which would have preempted the IRB's plans and destroyed any hope they had of staging their own rising. The IRB decided that Connolly would have to be taken care of.
They had to deal with Connolly. They either actually had to terminate him politically, or bring him on side.
On the 19th of January 1916, Connolly was stopped by two IRB men who had been ordered to bring him to meet the IRB Military Council. Connolly accompanied them to a brickworks in Dolphin's Barn, where Sean McDermott, Joseph Plunkett and Patrick Pearce were waiting for him.
Was the escort really necessary?
Have a seat.
James, there's been an awful lot of talk about you going out on your own, the Citizen Army.
Maybe there has. At least there's been some talk about something. There's been no talk about what you're doing.
It's the way we like it. The date has been set. A rebellion will take place.
We have 5,000 men in Dublin and 5,000 in the provinces that are ready to rise at any moment. The German government are committed to a shipment of arms and ammunition and potentially an expeditionary force in the event that our enterprise is successful.
And why would I, or the Citizen Army, have any interest in your cause?
We share similar aims, James.
Do we?
It's as simple as this. When we get closer to our goal, you will also get closer to yours.
If you're going to ask me to join with this and you're going to tell me that I'll be closer to my goals, what kind of guarantees can I expect?
De chaine ik gnealach chuid gona daine bhí pártach I lucht an éirimach. Bhí go leorach go péis taú leis na haibre ní tréid ag mar hampla bhí sin bail le cóisian lucht haibre. Bach sin arolalas aige. Ach san am céna bhí aige nach sóisialaí bhíontub, nach raisiid gur a réhlóid hóisialach mar bhí seisna gur ar bun le blianta.
I have every interest in this country being free, but I have far more interest in the citizens of this country owning and running this country.
They can own and run this country when it's free.
Dúirt Ó Connolly, a pin in the hand of a child can pierce the heart of a giant. Dar leis, go nairóg leis na hÉireannig, éirí amach dhéanamh a gcuine na Sasnach. De chuireach sin tús le macálaí ar fuad an domhain. I measc na cosfaointear is Sasna, ach I measc na nini colínathe san Afric agus san Áis. Ní bháin go raibh a chur ar son I ddír a féin, ach go raibh ag chur ar son bochtain an domhain, the wretched of the earth, mar deir fé. So is dócha gur an jaall ar cúisnat an tais sin, a ghlach Ó Connolly part in san éirí amach.
From January 1916 onwards, Connolly is on board. Citizen Army and the Irish Volunteers are together, and to formalise that arrangement, Connolly is appointed onto the military council.
By the time James Connolly joined the military council, a date for the rising had been set. Easter Sunday, the 23rd of April 1916. Liberty Hall now became a centre of revolutionary activity and was guarded around the clock by members of the Citizen Army. But although Connolly had committed his forces to the Republican cause, he had not abandoned his socialist principles.
However it may be for others, for us in the Citizen Army there is but one ideal. An Ireland owned and ruled by Irish men and Irish women. The Citizen Army will only cooperate in a forward movement. And the moment that that movement ceases to be, we reserve the right to step out of alignment. The odds against us may be 1,000 to 1. But if we should win, hold on to your rifles. The volunteers may have a different goal. But remember, our goal is not just political liberty, but economic liberty as well. So, hold on to your rifles.
It was in Liberty Hall on Easter Sunday that the proclamation of the Irish Republic was printed. It was produced in the worn-out printing press James Connolly used to publish the Workers' Republic by 3 members of the Citizen Army: Michael Malloy, William O'Brien and Christopher Brady.
So when I was done printing the proclamations, Commandant Connolly came in and said, "Are you finished, Chris?" "Yes," said Commandant. "Well," says he, "tied them up in 2 parcels, 12.50 in each parcel." Well, then when they were cleared away and the machine was cleared, the printing, Countess Marker was admitted in. She came in a violent temper. She threw a telegram on the board of the machine. Commandant, she read that. So whatever was in it, I could not say, but she was in a raging temper. One thing I did hear was, says Commandant James, says she, "I'll shoot McNeil."
What has he done? What has that son of a bitch McNeil done?
See for yourself.
Owing to the very critical situation, all orders given to the Irish volunteers for tomorrow, Easter Sunday, are hereby rescinded, and no parades, marches or other movements of Irish volunteers will take place. Each individual volunteer will obey this order strictly in every particular.
The same countermand has been sent out to every volunteer circle in the country. We'll be looking to have 100 men turn up.
Will bhí plán an éiríoach bra Owen McNeil an fear bhí ganas go hefigiúil na hóglaí. Ní ra sé an pártach in ulbó an éiríoach ach bhí sóla go ghlacha sé leis nuair a chonach sé go raibh sé go tarló. Ach faoi dhearan na seachtain a bhí sé soléir go gcuir sé an éiríoach agus chuir sé ordóach a dailte sé na nóchtán a rá leis na hóglaí go raibh cholathirt chuir ceall. Tháinig an costa míle taí chéile agus bhí pléile déanaach chearchó ba go le raí chearchó an rud a chuir ceall nó é chuir rathló. Bhil a chuid is mó go a chearchó leannacht a raí ach lá níos fuide agus mar sin thocra siad gomach an éiríoachán cé go raibh bhád níos ló daine ag go bléin éiríoach ach gomach sé a tarlú lá níos dearnaí lúan casca seachas dónach casca.
Right. Want everybody out. This building has been commandeered in the name of the Irish Republic.
We're seizing this building in the name of the Irish Republic! Everybody out!
Come on! Out!
Bhí Connolly mar cheannasaí orsaí na poblachta imlá lia. Rud a dá go raibh sé mór an gceannas ar na éiríoach ar fad mar is beag a hála taobh an phríomhchathair. Bhí Tiiscinn aige chórsaí míleta, bhí sin an áardú thiúirta chuoine, bhí sé hain a chulamach agus a rís buin chuidchan bheas a bhéh daine éir, seo duine bhí sásta chulagantóir sé hain, mar sin bheart meas a bheith ar an túra bhí aige, agus leis a tróra thug sé dúirt an péirsach ar nó go beisin insin tróirithe an éirí amach.
It seems that Connolly initially thought that it would be possible to stage a successful rising, one that would have a lasting impact and would spread across the country. However, in the days before the Easter Rebellion, he began to understand that the plan had gone slightly astray, that the guns weren't arriving and the mobilisation wasn't going to happen to the extent that it was meant to. And it seems that when he marched out on Easter Monday, he was aware that the rising was doomed to failure. He certainly said as much, it seems, to William O'Brien. But he probably maintained the belief that it would kick off something larger.
Dúirt an Connolly leis an bírsach, for us to strike is to win. Balór an gníomh a dhéanamh, le go ndéanfaí aithris air, san Ind, san Africa agus mar sin de. Nár gá ach an tíomhá sin a chur ar fáil. Ach is dócha beidir gur cheapadar go mbeadh tacaíocht le fáil agus go méidir sin an poblacht a ógart agus a chuineáil beo níos fuidir ná seachtain amháin.
I would expect the British to launch assaults here and here. So if we place barricades here and here in Abbey Street...
Lancers are coming, sir.
Fire, hold your fire. Do not fire until I give the command. You hear me? Let them gallop the full into the building. Wait for my order to shoot.
Now's their chance. They won't know what hit them.
Cease fire! Cease fire!
They're retreating, sir. They're retreating.
Connolly as commandant on the Tuesday does something very significant. He begins to reinforce various locations in O'Connell Street that had not been occupied.
I've posted men at the Imperial Hotel. They're going to defend it there to the last. What's this?
The hopes of Monday that a nationwide revolt might have happened, they are gone. When he reinforces these locations around the General Post Office, I think by the Tuesday he's accepting a British counterattack is coming and they're going to be blasted out of the GPO.
There's reports that they may have taken the top end of Sackville Street. As far as we know, there's possibly a gun on the roof of the rotunda.
Well, we must maintain positions here until reinforcements arrive.
But we have to formulate a plan based on the fact that we may be here for quite a lot longer than we thought. We can withstand a frontal assault, but we have to formulate a new strategy. Men, hit your posts! Hold your posts steady!
Is cosol gur chuir sé ionta séir nuair hasa arm na Breataine a caithe slug an leo, bhí sé níor sé súl lei sin. Béidir gur sé súl go dtugad isteach agus go méidir páirsacha i dúirdaíoch láimhe ach seacha sin thocra siad bómí a chathe agus an chathe a chuir trí hinne chuir ire.
Men, take your positions! Hold fast!
Nuair a tháinig an déirdaoin chuaigh sé féin amach, bheas sé faoin amsan gur chóir fuirgantí eile a gháil in aca láimhe agus chuaigh sé féin amach chun ifig an Irish Independent a gháil, ráha anhamúil, tuis chun Shannonitis idir é féin, agus uinéir an Independent, William Martin Murphy. Ach is san achtar sin a gortaíodh go donna é bhfuil rica sé a ruitín agus dhéon sé andamáiste dá agus bhí sé go mór I béin as a hamach.
I've got to walk it.
An gártó fuair sé rith an éirí meach bhí sé an donna brisise a rútín fad, agus bhí pean uásach á folinteige. Bhí dochtar óháin in ard fi go fast a rinne a dhíhil leis a méid a bhí aige leis an bíon sin a bhéló ach fós. Bhí pean uásach go nílach.
Is to go to the forecourts. If we get as far as Bow Street, then we'll be fine.
Right, we start evacuations in an hour. We're staying for one more hour. One final stand.
Despite his injury, Connolly refused to leave with the wounded. And when the rebels were forced to evacuate the building on Friday, he was amongst the last to leave, borne on a stretcher and shielded from the bullets by members of the citizen army. When the decision came to surrender on the following day, the order was countersigned by Connolly.
Connolly was actually eventually brought to Dublin Castle for treatment of his injuries. There he was also court-martialed and sentenced to death to be executed on the 12th of May. His wife and his daughter, Lily and Nora, actually visited James in Dublin Castle before his execution.
Tonight, I slept for the first time in weeks. And I was woken at 11 and told that I'd be shot at dawn. Please, Lily, don't cry. You'll unman me.
Oh, James, your beautiful life.
But hasn't it been a full life, Lily? And isn't this a good end? Don't cry, Lily. Don't cry, no.
I talked about little things. He was trying to plan our life for him after he was gone, and then they told us time was up and we'd have to go. He was to be shot at dawn, you see. So Mum, we couldn't get Mum away from the bed. The nurse had to come finally and help her away. And I went to the door, and then I went back to him. That was the last I saw him.
Shemole Mogilama Shemo Hazer Gilama Sunna Shane Nivurvas
Ireland without its people is nothing to me. And the man who is bubbling over with love and enthusiasm for Ireland and can pass unmoved through our streets and witness all the wrong and suffering, the shame and degradation wrought upon the people of Ireland, aye, wrought by Irish men upon Irish men and women, and without burning to end it, is, in my opinion, a fraud and a liar in his heart.
Beam Shabon Airport Gaglo Equiga Croix Sector Nyor or Squeal Awam on Vocal Bio Sna Reef Turturish Why Brown Shemulek Mogilamar Shemo Hazer Gilamar Suin Shane Nivuras